I learned to read pictures before I learned to read words. In my village in Guatemala, we didn't have books. We had walls painted with stories, market signs drawn in symbols, warnings etched into tree bark by those who came before. My abuela taught me that images speak louder than alphabet, that a person who truly sees understands more than someone who merely reads. That skill kept me alive when I crossed 3 borders with nothing but determination and my sister's photograph sewn into my dress. It helped me navigate a country where I couldn't read the signs but could understand the pictures on bathroom doors, restaurant menus, bus schedules. It got me work in houses where no one cared that I couldn't fill out proper paperwork, as long as I could clean and stay invisible. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. And today, on a Tuesday morning in November, while scrubbing the marble floors of the Castellano mansion in the suburbs of Chicago, that skill was about to change everything. The house was a monument to wealth I couldn't comprehend. 16,000 square feet of imported stone and custom woodwork, rooms I'd never entered because they were off-limits even to staff. Security systems more sophisticated than anything I'd seen in 3 years of cleaning houses for America's wealthy. I'd been working here for 4 months, part of a rotation of maids who came through a staffing agency that asked no questions about immigration status, as long as you showed up on time and kept your mouth shut. Mr. Castellano Dominic. Though I'd never dare call him, that was exactly what you'd expect from a man who owned half of Chicago's commercial real estate and, if the whispered rumors among staff were true, controlled significantly less legal operations throughout the Midwest. 42 years old, devastating in the way dangerous men often were, with dark eyes that missed nothing and a presence that made rooms feel smaller. He moved through his own house like a predator, controlled and precise, speaking in low tones that somehow commanded more respect than shouting ever could. I'd been invisible to him for 4 months, just another face in the rotation of women who maintained his perfect home, pressing his shirts and polishing his floors and disappearing before he noticed we existed. That's how I preferred it. Invisible meant safe. Invisible meant I could send money home to my mother and younger brothers without complications. But his daughter was different. Isabella Castellano was 9 years old, and she saw me, really saw me, in a way her father never had. She'd smile when I passed in the hallways, sometimes leave little drawings on the counter in her playroom after I'd cleaned flowers, butterflies, and simple kindnesses that made my chest ache with homesickness for the family I'd left behind. She reminded me of my youngest brother, Miguel, who used to draw entire stories in the dirt outside our house because we couldn't afford paper. I'd been warned about her during my first day. The girl doesn't speak, Rosa, the head housekeeper, had told me in Spanish. Hasn't said a word in 2 years. Trauma from when her mother died. Mr. Castellano has hired every specialist in the country. Nothing works. So we don't bother her. We clean around her, we smile if she acknowledges us, but we don't engage. Understand? I understood. Another rule in a house full of rules. Don't touch the office on the 3rd floor. Don't ask questions about the men who visit late at night. Don't comment on the bloodstains I'd occasionally find on towels in the laundry. Don't speak to the daughter who can't speak back. The morning started like any other. I arrived at 6, entered through the service entrance with my key card, changed into my uniform in the staff room. Rosa assigned me the 2nd floor today, Isabella's wing. Her bedroom, bathroom, the playroom she spent hours in, homeschooled by tutors who came and went on precise schedules. I started in the bathroom, scrubbing tile that was already pristine because Isabella was a careful child who never made messes. Through the open door, I could see into her bedroom. Pink wallpaper with silver accents, furniture that cost more than my family would earn in 5 years. Shelves packed with books she apparently devoured despite her silence. A reading child, like I'd wanted to be, before poverty and circumstance made education a luxury we couldn't afford. She was in her playroom when I moved to clean the hallway. I could hear the scratch of pencils on paper, the sound that always came from that room. Isabella drew constantly. Her father's walls throughout the house were covered with her artwork, framed professionally like they were museum pieces. Landscapes, portraits, abstract designs that showed a sophistication beyond her years. The only way she communicated, besides basic sign language, with her tutors and father. I was emptying the hallway trash when something caught my eye. A piece of paper, crumpled and thrown away, peeking out from beneath a tissue. I almost ignored it. Trash was trash, not my business. But something made me pause. Maybe it was the way it was wadded up frantically, not carefully folded like most of Isabella's discarded sketches. Maybe it was instinct, that same feeling that had warned me about the coyote who'd tried to abandon us in the desert, about the immigration checkpoint on the highway we'd barely avoided. I pulled it out, smoothed it against my leg. My breath caught. The drawing was crude compared to Isabella's usual work, desperate, drawn with shaking hands. It showed a girl obviously Isabella herself, with her distinctive long dark hair surrounded by 7 speech bubbles. Each bubble contained a different word written in a different alphabet. I recognized Spanish immediately. Ayuda, help. Next to it, something that looked like French. Aid. Then symbols I didn't know, Chinese characters maybe? Arabic script? Russian Cyrillic? 7 languages, all saying the same thing. Help me. But it was the 8th element that made my heart stop. In the center of the page, drawn with careful detail that contrasted with the frantic words around it, was a man. Not her father. Someone else. Older, with distinctive features, a hooked nose, thin lips, deep-set eyes that even in pencil sketch looked cruel. And his hand, drawn oversized for emphasis, gripping Isabella's arm so tightly that the little girl in the drawing had tears streaming down her face. At the bottom of the page, another drawing. A calendar with dates crossed out, leading to one circled date, November 19th, 4 days from now. My hands trembled as I studied the image. 7 languages meant she'd been trying to tell people who didn't understand. Teachers, maybe? Tutors who spoke different languages? But they'd missed. It because they were looking for words, not meaning. They could read the alphabets but not see what a desperate child was actually communicating. I couldn't read those words. Couldn't tell you what language they were or how to spell them properly, but I understood the picture perfectly. A child in danger, a man who wasn't her father, a deadline approaching. A plea for help that everyone with education had missed because they were too busy reading the words to see the story. The playroom door was open. I could see Isabella sitting at her craft table, back to me, working on another drawing. Her shoulders were hunched in a way that spoke of fear, exhaustion, the weight of trying to communicate something crucial that no one understood. I should have taken the drawing to Rosa. Should have followed protocol, reported it through proper channels, let someone with authority handle it. But Rosa would take it to Mr. Castellano's assistant, who would take it to Mr. Castellano, and something told me this was about protecting Isabella from something her father didn't know about, or couldn't protect her from, or the thought made me cold might not believe was real. I folded the drawing carefully, tucked it into my uniform pocket, and walked into the playroom. Isabella turned at the sound of my footsteps. Her eyes deep brown like her father's, but softer, filled with the kind of sadness no 9-year-old should carry, widened slightly. I wasn't supposed to be in here while she was present. The rules were clear. I knelt down beside her table, at eye level, pulled out the crumpled drawing and smoothed it on the surface between us. Her entire body went rigid. Fear flashed across her face, quickly replaced by desperate hope. I pointed to the drawing of the man, then to her, then made a gesture, hands coming together like a question. Who? She grabbed a fresh piece of paper, drew quickly. The same man, but now with more context. He was standing in a doorway of what looked like this house. Behind him, suggestions of other men. Below the drawing, she sketched a car, expensive, distinctive, with a specific emblem on the hood that I recognized from vehicles that occasionally came to the mansion late at night. Then she drew her father, unmistakable with his strong features and commanding posture. She put a big X through him. Not him, someone else. Someone who came to the house when her father was here but operated separately. I pointed to the calendar date, 4 days, touched my chest, then pointed to her, made the universal gesture for question, palms up, eyebrows raised. What happens in 4 days? Isabella's eyes filled with tears. She drew rapidly, messily. A car, the distinctive man. Isabella being led into the vehicle. In the background, smaller, her father's figure drawn with his back turned, not seeing, not knowing. Then she drew the most heartbreaking image. Herself, in the car, looking back at her house. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. At her father, being taken away, the kidnapping was planned for 4 days from now. Someone in Mr. Castellano's organization or circle, someone with access to the house, to his schedule, to his daughter, Someone who knew exactly when and how to take her while her father was distracted or away. And Isabella, brilliant and desperate and voiceless, had been trying to tell anyone for weeks, writing it in 7 languages, hoping one of her tutors would understand. But they'd all missed it because they were educated people looking for proper sentences, not a terrified child's visual plea for help. I understood because I couldn't read those languages, could barely read English beyond survival words. But I could read pictures, could read fear and desperation and the universal language of a child in danger. I took Isabella's hand, squeezed gently. Then I pointed to myself, to her, and made a gesture like building a wall protection. I would help her. I would make sure someone understood. The question was, who? Could I tell? Who in this house full of secrets and dangerous men could I trust with a child's life? Her father was the obvious answer, but getting to him meant going through layers of security and staff, explaining something I couldn't put into proper words because my English was broken and my literacy was minimal. They'd dismiss me before I got 3 sentences out, just a paranoid maid who didn't understand her place. Isabella was watching me with those heartbreaking eyes, waiting to see if I would fail her like everyone else had. I pulled out my phone cheap, barely functional, but it had a camera. I photographed the original crumpled drawing, then the new ones she'd just created. Evidence, proof, something that didn't require my inadequate words to explain. Then I made a decision that would either save her life or end my job, my safety, possibly my freedom if immigration got involved. I would tell her father, directly. Tonight, when he returned from whatever business kept him out, until late hours. I would wait, I would show him the pictures, and I would make him see what his daughter had been desperately trying to communicate, even if it meant revealing myself. Even if it meant consequences I couldn't predict. Because I'd crossed a desert and 3 borders to give my family a better life, and I knew what it meant to be voiceless in a country that didn't hear you. I wouldn't let Isabella's silence be her death sentence. I squeezed her hand once more, drew a simple picture myself, stick figures of her and me, standing together, with a shield around us. Protection. Partnership. Belief. Isabella's tears spilled over. She threw her arms around my neck, hugging me with the desperation of a child who'd been trying to scream in a soundproof room for weeks. I held her, this privileged girl in her mansion who was just as powerless as I'd been at her age, and understood that danger didn't care about wealth, that being voiceless was its own kind of poverty, and that, sometimes, the least educated person in the room saw things that everyone else missed. 4 days until someone tried to take her. 4 days to make her father understand. 4 days to protect a child who'd finally found someone who could read her desperate pictures. The clock in the playroom showed 10:47 a.m. The morning stretched ahead, hours until Mr. Castellano would return. I guided Isabella back to her drawings, cleaned the room around her while keeping watch, hyper-aware of every sound in the hallway. If someone was planning to take her, they might be watching, waiting for opportunities, noticing changes in routine. I needed to act normal, invisible. Just another maid doing her job, while my mind raced through scenarios and plans and the weight of a child's life suddenly resting on my illiterate shoulders. Rosa found me in the hallway at noon, her weathered face showing mild surprise that I was still on the 2nd floor. "You're slow today, Lucia," she said in Spanish. "The 2nd floor should have been finished an hour ago. Problem?" "No, Senora, just being thorough." I kept my voice neutral, my expression bland. "Mr. Castellano likes everything perfect." "He does. Finish up. You have the library and sitting room this afternoon." She paused, studying me with eyes that had seen too much in her 60 years. "You look pale. Are you sick?" "Just tired." "I'm fine." She didn't believe me, but she nodded and left. I watched her disappear down the stairs, wondering if she'd noticed anything strange. If she was part of whatever was planned or just another employee trying to survive in a dangerous man's house, trust no one. That was the rule that had kept me alive during the border crossing. Trust no one until you were absolutely certain. I would trust Mr. Castellano because he was Isabella's father, and whatever else he might be, the entire house knew he was devoted to his daughter. The walls were covered with her artwork. His office had photos of her, everywhere. After his wife died 2 years ago, the trauma that had stolen Isabella's voice, everyone said he'd become even more protective, more dangerous to anyone who threatened what he loved. This would either make him listen or make him destroy me for daring to suggest his security was compromised. I finished my work mechanically, moving through rooms with practiced efficiency, while my mind stayed fixed on Isabella, on those drawings, on the calendar counting down to something terrible. At 6 p.m., I clocked out with the other day staff. Rosa reminded everyone about tomorrow's schedule. I nodded along, acting normal, but I didn't leave. Instead, I slipped into the staff bathroom, waited 20 minutes, then moved quietly through the service corridors to a storage closet near the main study on the first floor. Mr. Castellano typically returned between 8 and 9. He'd go to his study first, always, to review the day's business before checking on Isabella. I would wait. I would intercept him. I would show him what I'd seen, and I would pray that my inability to speak proper English wouldn't prevent him from understanding what his daughter needed him to know. The storage closet smelled like lemon cleaner and old wood. I sat on an overturned bucket, phone clutched in my hand, reviewing the photos of Isabella's drawings for the 100th time. Each image burned into my memory, the desperate plea in 7 languages, the man with the cruel eyes, the calendar counting down to November 19th. My stomach growled. I hadn't eaten since the small breakfast I'd packed this morning. Didn't matter. Hunger was familiar. I'd survived worse than missing one meal. At 8:47 p.m., I heard voices in the hallway. Male, speaking in low tones that carried authority. Footsteps approaching the study. My heart hammered against my ribs so hard I thought it might break through. This was it. No going back. I waited until the voices settled, until I heard the study door close, counted to 60. Then I stepped out of the closet, walked to the massive oak door that separated me from the most dangerous man in Chicago, and knocked. Silence. Then, come. One word. A command, not an invitation. I opened the door. Dominic Castellano sat behind a desk that probably cost more than my family's house in Guatemala. He didn't look up immediately, focused on papers spread before him. 3 other men occupied the room large. Alert. The kind of men whose job was noticing threats. They noticed me instantly, hands moving subtly toward weapons I couldn't see but knew were there. Sir. My voice came out smaller than I'd intended. I must speak with you. Now he looked up. Those dark eyes landed on me with the full weight of his attention, and I understood why men feared him. He wasn't just looking at me, he was assessing, cataloging, deciding my value or threat level in seconds. You're one of the maids. Not a question. He'd noticed me after all, filed me away, in whatever mental database he maintained of everyone in his orbit. Yes, Lucia Morales. My English fractured under pressure. Is about Isabella. Is important. Very important. One of the men moved toward me. Boss, we're in the middle of... Dominic raised one hand. The man stopped immediately. You have 30 seconds. His voice was controlled, but something flickered in his eyes at his daughter's name. Make them count. I pulled out my phone with trembling hands, navigated to the photos, held it toward him. Isabella, draw this. Today. I find in trash. She tried to tell people, but no one understand. I understand. He was around the desk in 3 strides, taking my phone without asking permission. His expression changed as he studied the first image, the crumpled drawing with 7 languages surrounding the word help. Confusion, then sharpening focus. He swiped to the next photo. The man with the cruel features. His jaw tightened, a muscle jumping beneath his skin. Next photo. The calendar with November 19th circled. His hand clenched around my phone hard enough that I worried he'd crack it. When he looked up at me, his eyes had gone cold in a way that made my blood freeze. Where did you get these? I tell you. In trash, in hallway by her room. She throw away, but I see and I nod. The words tangled in my mouth. I know pictures. I cannot read good, but I know pictures. She write help in languages, but no one see. They read words but not the meaning. Jesus Christ. He turned to the largest of his men. Marco, get Vincent and Carlos. Now. Tell them priority 1. My office, 5 minutes. To another. Lock down the house. No one in or out without my clearance. Wake Isabella's nanny. I want eyes on my daughter immediately. The men moved like a machine, efficient and deadly. Marco was on his phone before he cleared the doorway. The third man, younger, with a scar across his cheek, stayed positioned between me and Dominic like he couldn't decide if I was threat or witness. Dominic's attention returned to me with laser focus. This man. He held up the phone, showing the drawing of the cruel-faced figure. You've seen him here? No, sir. I never see him. But Isabella draw him with. I struggled for words, gestured at the phone. With the house, with cars that come here. She show he is someone who come here, but you don't see. Someone who work for you, maybe? His expression darkened further. Betrayal from within his organization. The worst kind of threat? What else did she tell you? She draw more. After I show her, I understand. I took my phone back, swiped to the additional photos. She draw her being taken, put in car. You are there, but you don't see. November 19. 4 days. 4 days. He repeated, voice deadly quiet. Someone in my organization is planning to kidnap my daughter in 4 days, and she's been trying to tell someone for how long? I don't know, sir. But she try many languages. Like she tell tutors, maybe? Teachers? They don't understand. Because they were reading the words, not seeing the message. Something that might have been respect crossed his features. But you saw it. I cannot read those languages. I barely read English, but pictures. I touched my chest. Pictures I understand. In my village we have no school. We learn from images, from symbols. Isabella speak with pictures, and I speak pictures too. Footsteps in the hallway. Marco returned with 2 more men, both older, harder, with the kind of faces that had seen violence and dealt it themselves. They entered and closed the door behind them with ominous finality. Talk, Dominic said without preamble, showing them my phone. The 3 men studied the images in tense silence. I watched their expressions shift from confusion to recognition to barely contained rage. That's fucking Sal, the one called Vincent spat. Sal Marchetti. Works under Tony in transportation. He has access? Dominic's voice. Could have cut glass. To the grounds, yes. He's cleared for deliveries, runs shipments from the warehouse. But not to the house itself. Not to the residential floors. He doesn't need access to the house if he has help from someone who does. Dominic turned to Marco. Where's Tony? Out of town. Newark job. Won't be back until the 20th. Convenient timing. Dominic's hands were steady, but I could see the violence coiled beneath his control. He sets up the grab for the 19th. Establishes an alibi by being out of state when it happens. Boss. Tony's been with you for 15 years. And 15 years means nothing if someone offered him enough money or leverage to betray me. The words came out flat, certain. My daughter has been screaming for help in 7 fucking languages while tutors who speak those languages patted her head and missed it entirely. How long has she known? How long has she been terrified in her own home? The question hung heavy. No one answered. Dominic's eyes found mine again. You found this today? Yes, sir. This morning. I wait all day to tell you because I cannot reach you before. I hide and wait. You hid in my house for 3 hours to tell me my daughter is in danger. Yes, sir. You could have left, avoided the problem. Let someone else discover it. The truth was simpler than he realized. She is a child. No one help her. I know what is to have no voice, to try to speak and no one listen. I cannot. The English escaped me. I switched to Spanish, hoping he understood. No podía dejarla sola. No cuando finalmente alguien entendió su mensaje. I couldn't leave her alone. Not when someone finally understood her message. Dominic spoke Spanish fluently, I realized, because something shifted in his expression. Not softness men like him didn't soften, but acknowledgement. You're illegal. Another statement, not a question. My throat tightened. Yes, sir. You understand that by coming to me, revealing yourself, you've made yourself visible in a way that could destroy everything you've built here? Yes, sir. But you did it anyway. For my daughter. A child you barely know. She see me. When no one else see me, she see me. She smile. She leave me drawings. She is kind when she don't have to be kind. My voice cracked. I cannot let bad things happen to children. Not when I can stop them. Silence stretched. The men watched their boss, waiting for his judgment. He could have me deported, could make me disappear, could decide I was part of the threat instead of the solution. Instead, he said, from this moment, you work directly for me. Not the agency, not Rosa me. Your job is to stay with Isabella. Be her shadow. If someone's coming for her, they'll have to go through you first. I blinked. Sir? You see threats others miss. You understand her in ways trained professionals have failed. That makes you valuable." He turned to Vincent. "Set her up in the guest room adjacent to Isabella's. Suite. 24-hour protection detail, but discreet. I don't want whoever's planning this to know we're aware. Boss, she's a maid. She's the only person my daughter has successfully communicated with in 2 years. That makes her more essential than anyone else in this house right now." His tone brooked no argument. "Carlos, background check. Full depth. I want to know everything about Lucia Morales by morning. Where she's from, how she got here, family situation, everything." Carlos nodded, already typing on his phone. "Marco, pull all security footage from the past 3 months. Every instance of Sal Marchetti on these grounds. Cross-reference with Tony's schedule. I want to know exactly how deep this goes. On it. Vincent, reach out to our people in Newark. Discreet surveillance on Tony. Don't let him know we're watching, but I want eyes on him until I decide how to handle this." The men dispersed to execute orders with military precision. Within seconds, only Dominic, and I remained in the study. He leaned against his desk, studying me with that intense focus that made me feel simultaneously protected and exposed. "You're afraid of me," he observed. "Yes, sir. Good. Fear means you're smart." He crossed his arms. "But you came to me anyway. That means you're also brave. Or desperate. Maybe both." "I am both," I admitted. "Why didn't you go to Rosa? To the tutors? Why risk coming directly to me?" "Because..." I searched for the English words. "Because this is someone in your house. In your... organización. Someone who know Isabella's schedule, who know when you are not here, who can take her when guards don't see. I don't know who to trust. Only you. You are her father. You must protect her." His jaw worked. "I am her father, and I didn't see that she was terrified under my own roof. That she's been trying to tell me something was wrong and I missed every sign. You cannot read her pictures. Is not your fault. Everything that happens to her is my fault. She's my responsibility." The pain in his voice was raw, quickly masked. Her mother died because of my world, because people wanted to hurt me and used my wife to do it. I swore I'd never let anyone hurt Isabella, never let my enemies reach her again. And now someone inside my organization... He stopped, reining in emotion with visible effort. "Sir," I said quietly, "you cannot protect from threats you don't see. But now you see. Now we stop them. We..." He repeated the word like testing its weight. "You understand what you're agreeing to? If you stay, if you become part of Isabella's protection, you're entering a world that doesn't forgive mistakes. People who come after my daughter don't get second chances. Neither do people who fail to protect her." The threat was clear. Also clear was the desperation beneath it. A father who would burn the world to keep his child safe. "I understand. I stay with Isabella. I keep her safe. No one take her." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded once. "Marco will show you to your room. Get settled. Tomorrow, we introduce you to Isabella officially as her new..." He paused, searching for a title that explained my role. "Personal assistant. Someone who helps her with daily activities. The tutors will think it's to help with her care. Anyone planning something will see a new presence they need to work around. But they don't know I understand the threat. Exactly. You're our advantage. The seemingly harmless maid who actually sees everything." He moved to the door, then paused. "Lucia." "Yes, sir?" "Thank you. For not walking away. For seeing my daughter when I was blind." The gratitude in his voice nearly undid me. "She deserved to be safe, sir. All children deserve to be safe." The guest room was larger than any space I'd lived in since arriving in America. Attached bathroom, a bed with sheets that felt like clouds, furniture that matched in a way that spoke of professional decorators. Through one door, I could see into a sitting area, through another, directly into Isabella's bedroom. Marco had been professional but thorough, showing me the security features panic button by the bed, camera feeds I could monitor, direct line to the security office. "You see anything wrong, anything unusual, you hit that button. Someone will be here in 15 seconds. Now, alone in this luxury that felt stolen, I sat on the edge of the bed and let myself shake, reaction hitting after hours of forced calm. I'd just made myself visible to the most dangerous man in Chicago, revealed my illegal status, inserted myself into some internal war within his organization, and I'd do it again. For Isabella. for any child who needed someone to see them. A soft knock on the door connecting to Isabella's room. I opened it to find the girl standing there in princess pajamas, her nanny hovering behind her anxiously. "I'm so sorry." "The nanny, Maria," I remembered said. She insisted. "Wouldn't settle until she saw you." Isabella pushed past Maria, wrapping her arms around my waist with desperate strength. She was crying, silent tears streaming down her face. Relief, fear, the overwhelming emotion of finally being understood. I knelt down, let her bury her face in my shoulder, stroked her hair while she sobbed, soundlessly. Maria watched from the doorway, confused but not interfering. When Isabella finally pulled back, she looked at me with a question in her eyes. I understood without words. "Did you tell him? Does he know?" I nodded, pointed to her, to me, to the window gesture encompassing the whole house, her father, everything. Safe, protected, believed. Fresh tears, but these looked different. Hope, maybe. The desperate hope of someone who'd been screaming into the void for weeks and finally had someone scream back. She pulled out a piece of paper she'd been clutching another drawing. This one showed her and me, standing side by side, surrounded by a protective circle. Her father stood behind us, larger than life, a shield against the shadowy figures she'd drawn at the edges. Family, protection, trust. I took the drawing, pressed it to my heart. Then I drew her a picture in return, simple, because my artistic skills were minimal, but clear enough. 2 stick figures holding hands. One small, one tall. Under them, I drew a house, solid, strong, safe. She smiled. The first real smile I'd seen from her. Then she hugged me again and let Maria guide her back to bed. I stood in the doorway between our rooms, watching Maria tuck her in, watching Isabella finally relax into sleep like she hadn't been able to in weeks. A child who'd been carrying impossible weight, finally able to set it down. My phone buzzed. Text from a number I didn't recognize. Status report. Is she settled? DC Dominic Castellano was checking on his daughter through me. I typed carefully. English still clumsy. Yes. She sleep now. Is calm. His. Response. Good. Stay alert. Marco is on the hallway. You're not alone. I peeked out into the corridor. Sure enough, Marco sat in a chair positioned with clear sightlines to both my door and Isabella's. He nodded once when he saw me. Acknowledgement. I closed the door, locked it, then wedged a chair under the handle for extra security habit from years of making myself safe in unsafe places. Then I lay on the bed, still in my uniform because I had no other clothes, and stared at the ceiling. Tried to process the insanity of the last 12 hours. This morning I'd been invisible. Tonight I was sleeping in a mansion guest room with a guard outside my door, trusted with protecting a Mafia boss's daughter from threats within his own organization. My phone buzzed again. My mother's number. I'd missed our weekly call. She'd be worried. Mija. Her voice crackled over the poor connection. Where have you been? You always call on Tuesdays. I'm sorry, Mama. Work was complicated today. Is everything okay? You sound strange. How could I explain? That I'd stumbled into a situation that was either going to save my life or destroy it? That I was now living in the same mansion I cleaned, protecting a child who saw me as fully human when her father had looked through me for months. Everything is okay. Different, but okay. I paused, weighing words. I might have a different job soon. Better money. Lucia, you're not doing anything dangerous, are you? I didn't send you to America to... No, Mama. Nothing like that. I'm just helping with a child. A girl who needs someone. You always did have a soft heart for children. Her voice warmed. Like when you brought home that stray dog and insisted we had room for one more mouth to feed. This is like that, except the child has a very protective father. Good. Children should be protected. She coughed, that persistent cough that worried me. I'm proud of you, Mija. Working hard, sending money home. Your brothers ask about you every day. Guilt twisted in my chest. Tell them I miss them. Tell them I'll call this weekend, I promise. After we said goodbye, I lay in the darkness thinking about family. About the mother and brothers I'd left behind to earn money in a country that wanted my labor but not my presence. About Isabella, who had a father who loved her desperately but couldn't hear her silence. About Dominic Castellano, who'd built an empire on danger but was being destroyed by the threat to his child. We were all voiceless in different ways, all trying to be heard in languages others didn't speak. The difference was, I'd learned to translate. Morning came too early. I woke to soft knocking on the connecting door. Isabella, already dressed in school clothes, holding 2 plates of breakfast. She'd brought me food. The gesture nearly made me cry. We ate together in the sitting area, eggs, toast, fresh fruit that tasted like luxury. She showed me her schedule for the day, written out by Maria. Lessons with her math tutor at 9, art therapy at 11, lunch at 1, reading time in the afternoon. I pointed to myself, then to her, made a gesture that encompassed the day. I would be with her. All of it. She nodded enthusiastically, relief evident. Then she pulled out her ever-present sketchpad and drew rapidly. When she turned it around, I saw myself rendered in her skilled hand, standing protective beside her, but smiling. Not a guard. A friend. Miss Morales. I turned. Dominic stood in the doorway, dressed for business in a suit that probably cost more than I'd earn in a year. He'd entered so quietly I hadn't heard him. Dangerous skill. Mr. Castellano. I stood automatically, old habits of deference. Relax. You're not staff anymore. You're, he paused, finding the word, family. Or close enough. Isabella clearly thinks so. Isabella bounced up, ran to her father. He caught her with practiced ease, lifting her like she weighed nothing. The love on his face was unguarded, pure. This was who he really was beneath the dangerous exterior, a father who'd been drowning in fear for his child. He spoke to her in Italian, words I didn't understand but recognized as affectionate. She signed something back, her small hands moving in patterns I couldn't follow. He responded in sign language, then set her down and turned to me. Carlos finished your background check. You're exactly who you said you were, a woman doing whatever it takes to survive and help her family. No red flags, no connections to anyone who'd want to hurt Isabella. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is yours. Advance on your new salary. I opened it. Cash. More cash than I'd ever held at once. My hands trembled. Sir, this is too much. It's not nearly enough for what you're doing. There's also paperwork being filed. By the end of the week, you'll have legal work authorization. 6 months from now, if everything goes well, a green card. I stared at him. You can do this? I can do many things when properly motivated. Protecting my daughter is the highest motivation I have. His expression hardened. Marco's team found something. Sal Marchetti has been meeting with someone outside our organization. We don't have identification yet, but the meetings started 2 months ago, right around when Isabella's drawings became more desperate. She knows something was wrong. Try to tell people. And now we know. He crouched beside Isabella, met her eyes. Baby, I need you to do something for me. I need you to act normal this week. Like nothing's changed. Can you do that? She nodded solemnly. Good. Because the men who want to hurt you, they think we don't know. Let's keep it that way. Lucia will be with you, but we're calling her your personal assistant. Just someone to help you with daily stuff, okay? Another nod. That's my girl. He kissed her forehead, stood. To me. Her math tutor arrives in 20 minutes. You sit in on the session. Watch everything. Anyone who comes near her, you evaluate. Trust your instincts. They've been right so far. Yes, sir. Dominic. Call me Dominic. We're going to be working closely together. Sir is too formal. The shift felt monumental. From invisible maid to being on first-name basis with Chicago's most dangerous man. Okay. Dominic. He smiled slightly. That hurt you to say, didn't it? A little. Yes. You'll get used to it. Now I have business to handle. Marco's outside. If you need anything at all, tell him. He reports directly to me. Isabella grabbed my hand as her father left, squeezing tight. We had 4 days until November 19th. 4 days to identify everyone involved in the plot to take her. 4 days to stop them without revealing that we knew. I squeezed back, promising silently what I'd already promised her father. No one would take this child, not while I could still draw breath to stop them. The tutor arrived precisely at 9. Middle-aged woman, professionally dressed, carrying materials for the lesson. She introduced herself as Mrs. Patterson, showed mild surprise at my presence. This is Lucia. Isabella's nanny, Maria explained. She's Isabella's new personal assistant, helping with daily activities. Mrs. Patterson's expression suggested she thought this was unnecessary, but she didn't argue. The lesson proceeded normally: fractions and geometry, concepts Isabella grasped easily. I watched everything. The tutor's interactions, her positioning, the way she handled materials. Nothing seemed suspicious, just a competent teacher doing her job. But I watched anyway. Because somewhere in Isabella's world, someone was planning to betray her, and until we knew who, everyone was suspect. The art therapy session at 11 was different. The therapist, Dr. Chen, a woman in her 30s with kind eyes, noticed immediately that Isabella's demeanor had changed. She was lighter, less burdened, sketching with freedom instead of desperation. "This is remarkable progress," Dr. Chen said to Maria. "What changed?" "We're not sure," Maria lied smoothly. "Perhaps just a good week." "But doctor," Chen looked at me, assessment in her gaze. "You're new." "Yes. I help Isabella with daily things." "She's drawing you." "Doctor." Chen pointed to Isabella's current sketch, me and Isabella together, surrounded by protective symbols. "She never draws staff. This is significant." I didn't know how to respond. Fortunately, Maria stepped in. "Isabella has connected with Lucia. Sometimes that happens. We're grateful for any positive relationship." "Doctor." Chen didn't look entirely convinced, but she returned to working with Isabella. I made a mental note to tell Dominic. The therapist noticed something was different. If she could see it, others might too. Lunch was in the kitchen, prepared by Sophia, the mansion's cook. She was curious about me. The invisible maid suddenly elevated to Isabella's constant companion. I deflected with broken English and shy smiles, playing the role of someone overwhelmed by sudden responsibility. In truth, I was overwhelmed, but not by responsibility. By the magnitude of what I'd stumbled into. By the trust being placed in me by a man who destroyed people who failed him. By the weight of a child's safety resting on my ability to see threats others missed. In the afternoon, while Isabella had reading time in her playroom, Dominic summoned me to his office. "Tell me what you observed today," he commanded without preamble. I described each interaction, each person who'd entered Isabella's orbit. When I mentioned Dr. Chen's observation about the change in Isabella's demeanor, his expression darkened. "She's too perceptive. That could be a problem. Or she could help," I suggested carefully. "She care about Isabella. Maybe she see things too. Maybe. Or maybe she's got connections we don't know about." He pulled up security footage on his computer. "This is from this morning. Eastgate, 7:15 a.m. The video showed a delivery truck. The driver got out, spoke to the guard, handed over packages. Routine. Except Dominic paused the video, zoomed in on the driver's face. "Sal Marchetti, the man from Isabella's drawings. He delivers here regularly?" "Twice a week. Has for 6 months." Dominic's voice was ice, right under my nose. "My daughter tried to tell me, and I didn't see. You see now. That matter more." His eyes met mine. "Does it?" "She's been terrified for weeks, Lucia, drawing desperate pleas for help that I was too blind to notice." "What kind of father does that make me?" The pain in his voice was raw. This man who controlled an empire through fear and violence was being destroyed by his failure to protect the one person who mattered most. "You are the father who believe me when I tell you," I said firmly. "Who listened to Maid with bad English and no papers, who drop everything to protect his daughter. That is the father you are." He was quiet for a long moment. "You're remarkably brave for someone with everything to lose." "No. I just understand what is to have no voice. To try to speak and have no one hear. Isabella and me, we are same. Different worlds, same silence. Not anymore. I hear you. And through you, I hear her." He stood, came around the desk. 3 days, until the 19th. We've identified Sal as the inside man, but he's not working alone. Someone higher up is coordinating this. Someone with authority to know my schedule, Isabella's routine. You think is Tony? The man in Newark? I think Tony being conveniently out of town the day they plan to grab her is too perfect. But I need proof before I move. Accusations without evidence in my world lead to war. Then we get proof. He smiled, dark and dangerous. "Yes, we do. Tomorrow I want you to take Isabella to her art class. It's off grounds. At a studio in Lincoln Park. I'll assign security, but I want you there. Watching. Sal works. Transportation. If he's planning something, a trip outside the mansion is perfect opportunity. Fear spiked through me. You use Isabella as bait? I use Isabella as the protected princess she is, with enough security to stop an army. But I need these people to make a move. I need them to reveal themselves fully before the 19th, so we can stop this permanently. His hand landed on my shoulder, surprisingly gentle. I won't let anything happen to her. You have my word, but I need to draw them out. It was dangerous, risky. Everything in me screamed to refuse. But he was right. Waiting until the 19th meant letting them choose the timing, the location, the terms. This way, we controlled the variables. Okay, but I stay with Isabella. Every second, he agreed. And Lucia? If something goes wrong, if they make a move, you get her out. You don't try to be a hero. You protect my daughter and run. Understand? I understand. But we both knew if it came to that, I'd do whatever it took, hero or not, because I'd promised Isabella she was safe, and I'd crossed too many borders, survived too much, to break a promise to a child. The morning of November 17th arrived with cold rain that turned Chicago's streets into mirrors reflecting gray skies. 2 days before the planned kidnapping. 2 days to draw out the traitors and end this before Isabella lived through the terror they'd planned for her. I dressed in clothes Dominic had provided: dark jeans, a sweater that actually fit, boots suitable for running if necessary. My old uniform hung in the closet like a shed skin, reminder of who I'd been 72 hours ago. That invisible woman felt like a stranger now. Isabella appeared at my door at 7, already dressed for the day. She handed me a drawing, the two of us, holding hands, surrounded by protective circles. But this time, she'd added something new. Storm clouds overhead, lightning striking around us, but the circles held firm. She knew today was dangerous, and she was telling me she trusted me anyway. We stay together, I promised in Spanish, then repeated in broken English. No matter what happened, you stay with me. Yes? She nodded, solemn beyond her 9 years. Breakfast was tense. Dominic sat at the head of the table, Marco and Vincent flanking him, discussing security arrangements in low tones. The art studio in Lincoln Park was 30 minutes away. Isabella's class ran from 10 to noon, 2 hours of exposure outside the mansion's controlled environment. 6-vehicle convoy, Marco was saying. 3 ahead, 3 behind. Snipers on adjacent rooftops during the class. Exit routes mapped and cleared. Too obvious, Dominic countered. If we roll up with an army, they'll know we're expecting trouble. 2 vehicles, one with Isabella, Lucia, and close protection. 2nd vehicle maintains distance, ready to respond if needed. Boss, that's minimal coverage. That's the appearance of normal security. If Sal and whoever he's working with are watching, we need them to think this is routine, that we suspect nothing. His eyes found mine across the table. But nothing about this is routine. Is it Lucia? No, Sir Dominic. I still stumbled over his first name. Is a trap. A trap they don't know they're walking into. He turned to Isabella, switched to that gentle voice he reserved only for her. Baby, today you go to art class like always. Lucia comes with you because she's your assistant now. Marco drives. Everything normal. Okay? Isabella signed something. Her hands moved quickly, urgently. Dominic's jaw tightened. I know you're scared. But I promise, I swear on your mother's memory, nothing will happen to you. We're ready this time. We see the threat. And we're going to end it. She looked at me, question in her dark eyes. I nodded firmly. I promise too. No one take you. I don't let them. She believed me. I saw it in the way her shoulders relaxed slightly, the way she reached for Belush, my hand under the table and squeezed. A child who'd been screaming silently for weeks, trusting the woman who'd finally heard her. The weight of that trust nearly crushed me. At 9:30, we loaded into a black SUV with tinted windows. Marco drove, another guard named Leo in the passenger seat. Isabella and I sat in the back, her hand never leaving mine. Behind us, a second SUV followed at a discreet distance, Vincent, and 3 more men, heavily armed, ready to move if things went wrong. The drive through Chicago felt surreal. Rain-slicked streets, morning traffic, people going about their normal lives while we rode toward potential violence. I watched everything: cars that followed too long, faces that appeared in multiple locations, anything that felt wrong. Relax. Marco said, catching my eye in the rearview mirror. You look like you're about to jump out of your skin. Deep breaths. How you stay calm? I asked. When you know danger is coming? Training. Experience. Knowing I'm good at what I do. He smiled slightly. And knowing the boss will burn the world down if we fail. That's motivating. Leo laughed darkly. Truth. I've seen him dismantle entire organizations for less than threatening his kid. I thought about the coldness in Dominic's eyes when he'd studied Isabella's drawings. The controlled violence in his voice when he'd said the people planning this would learn what happens when you make things personal. These men weren't joking. They'd witnessed what he was capable of. And now I was part of that world, protected by it, complicit in it. The art studio occupied the second floor of a renovated industrial building. Large windows, exposed brick. The kind of space wealthy parents paid premium rates for their children to experience authentic creativity. We parked in the underground garage. Marco and Leo swept the area first, checked exits, confirmed no unexpected vehicles. Clear. Marco reported into his radio. Proceeding to second floor. The studio was bright and welcoming. 8 children of various ages worked at easels, supervised by an instructor named Claire, who greeted Isabella with warm familiarity. Isabella, and you must be Lucia, the new assistant Maria mentioned. Claire's smile was genuine. Welcome. Isabella, your easel is ready. We're doing landscapes today, you're going to love it. I positioned myself where I could see every entrance, every window, every person in the space. Marco stayed by the door, Leo checked the hallway. Everything appeared normal, innocent. A children's art class on a rainy Wednesday morning. But my instinct screamed that something was coming. Isabella painted with focus, occasionally glancing at me for reassurance. I smiled, nodded, stayed alert. 30 minutes passed. 45. Claire moved between students, offering encouragement and technique tips. 2 parents sat in a waiting area, scrolling through phones. Normal. Too normal. At 11:20, my phone buzzed. Text from Dominic. Status? All good. Nothing wrong. I typed back. Stay alert. Vincent reports suspicious vehicle circling the block. Ice ran through my veins. I looked at Marco, who was already reading the same message on his own phone. His hand moved inside his jacket, resting on whatever weapon he carried. Leo, Marco said quietly. Check the stairwell. Leo moved immediately, casual but purposeful. The parents in the waiting area didn't notice. The children kept painting. Claire was helping a boy mix colors. Everything appeared peaceful. Then Leo's voice crackled over Marco's radio, urgent and low. 3 men in the stairwell, armed, moving up. Evacuate now, Marco commanded, already moving toward Isabella. Everything happened simultaneously. Marco reached Isabella's easel as the studio door burst open. 3 men entered not through the main door where Leo had been, but through a service entrance I hadn't seen. Planned, coordinated. They'd known the layout, and I recognized the leader immediately. Sal Marchetti, the man from Isabella's drawings, cruel eyes and all. Nobody moves, nobody gets hurt, Sal announced, weapon raised. Parents screamed. Children froze in terror. Claire moved instinctively toward her students. We just want the girl. Isabella's hand found mine, grip crushing. I pulled her behind me, putting my body between her and the guns. Marco had his weapon out. You made a mistake coming here. Did I? Sal smiled. I've got 3 men here. Another 6 downstairs blocking your exits. This was always going to happen, Marco. Today, the 19th, doesn't matter. We were always going to take her. Boss just decided to move up the timeline when the maid started getting too cozy with the kid. Boss, not Tony, someone else. Who sent you? Marco's voice was deadly calm. Someone who's tired of Dominic Castellano thinking he's untouchable. Sal's weapon shifted, pointed directly at me. You, the maid. Step away from the girl. No. The word came out, stronger than I felt. I will shoot you. Step away. Then shoot, because I don't move. Isabella's arms wrapped around my waist from behind. I felt her trembling, her face pressed against my back. She'd spent weeks in terror, drawing desperate pleas that no one understood. I'd promised her safety. I'd looked her in the eyes and sworn no one would take her. I wasn't breaking that promise. Sal's finger tightened on the trigger. Time slowed. I saw Marco calculating angles, saw Leo appear in the service doorway behind Sal's men. saw Claire herding children toward the corner, saw everything with crystalline clarity. Then the window exploded inward. Not glass breaking glass removed by precision breaching charges. Vincent and his team came through on rappel lines, weapons raised, moving with military efficiency. Simultaneously, the main door burst open. Dominic himself, flanked by 4 more men, eyes blazing with controlled fury. "Drop your weapons," he commanded. Not loud, didn't need to be. The voice of a man who'd ordered deaths without hesitation. Sal spun toward him. Mistake. Marco moved, disarmed him in 2 brutal motions. Sal hit the floor hard. His men tried to raise their weapons. Leo and Vincent's team were faster. Within seconds, all 3 were on the ground, disarmed, held at gunpoint. Dominic crossed the space to us. To Isabella, who still clung to me, and to me, standing between his daughter and violence like I could have stopped bullets with my body. "Are you hurt?" he asked Isabella first, dropping to one knee, hands gentle as he checked her for injuries. She shook her head, signing rapidly. Her hands moved too fast for me to follow, but I caught enough to understand. She was telling him I'd protected her, that I'd kept my promise. His eyes rose to meet mine. "You didn't move. I promise her. I don't break promises to children. He was going to shoot you. Maybe, but he don't take Isabella. That matter more." Something shifted in his expression, not just gratitude recognition. Understanding that I wasn't just doing a job or following orders, that I'd meant every word when I'd said I wouldn't let anyone take her. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Dominic's jaw tightened. "Marco, clean this up. Call our people at CPD. Make sure the right story gets told. Vincent, secure these 3. I want them alive for questioning. Boss, police are 2 minutes out. Then you have 2 minutes to make sure they understand this was self-defense. Attempted kidnapping. These men broke in with weapons, threatened children. By the time official statements are taken, everyone's story will match. Move." His men moved like a machine, practiced at making violence look like justified defense. Parents were being shepherded to a corner, statements aligned. Claire looked shell-shocked but was already nodding along with Marco's quiet instructions. The children, traumatized but unharmed, were being comforted. Dominic turned his attention fully to Isabella and me. "We're leaving. Now, before this becomes a media circus." He lifted Isabella like she weighed nothing, held her against his chest. She buried her face in his neck, finally letting herself break down, silent sobs shaking her small frame. 2 years of held-in terror releasing all at once. "Come," he said to me, already moving toward a back exit I hadn't noticed. "You're with us." I followed. Through corridors, down service stairs, into an underground garage where yet another SUV waited. Dominic slid into the back with Isabella still in his arms. I climbed in beside them. The vehicle was moving before my door fully closed. "Where's Marco?" I asked. "Handling the aftermath. He's good at it." Dominic stroked Isabella's hair, murmuring in Italian. Comfort, reassurance. Love wrapped in words I didn't understand but felt anyway. "You did exactly what I told you not to do." "What?" I said if things went wrong, get her out. Don't try to be a hero. You tried to be a hero. No, I just don't move. Is different. You put yourself between my daughter and 3 armed men. That's the definition of being a hero. Is the definition of keeping a promise. I met his eyes. You think I let her be taken after she finally trusts someone? After weeks of being so scared she'd draw help in 7 languages? No. I don't move. He studied me in silence. Isabella had quieted in his arms, exhausted from terror and relief. Rain drummed on the roof of the SUV as Chicago blurred past the windows. Tony was the boss they mentioned, he finally said. Vincent's team in Newark confirmed it. He made a deal with the Moretti family. They wanted leverage against me. He wanted a bigger cut of operations. He was planning to sell them my daughter. The words were matter of fact, but I heard the fury beneath them. Betrayal from someone he'd trusted for 15 years. Someone who'd been part of his inner circle, his organization, his family, in the way these men considered each other family. What happened to him? He's no longer a problem. The finality in his voice told me everything. Sal and his men will be questioned. Then they'll disappear. The Morettis will receive a message about what happens when they target children, and my organization will know that betrayal costs everything. Violence wrapped in business language. Justice administered outside any legal system. I should have been horrified. Should have recoiled from the casual way he discussed making people disappear. Instead, I just felt relief. Because Isabella was safe. Because the men who'd planned to take her would never threaten another child. Because sometimes, justice lived outside courtrooms and legal procedures. "You're not afraid of me," Dominic observed. "Most people are. Even my own men maintain healthy fear." "I am afraid of you," I corrected. "But I understand you. You do terrible things, yes, but for good reasons. To protect what you love is not so different from what I do." "What you do?" "You're a cleaning woman who happened to see a drawing. I cross 3 borders illegal. I work without papers. I send money to my family even when I have no food for myself. I break laws every day to protect people I love." I looked at Isabella, peaceful now in her father's arms. "You and me, we both do what we must. Just different methods." He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "When this is over, when things settle, I want you to stay. Not as Isabella's protection, as her caretaker. Her companion. She trusts you in a way she hasn't trusted anyone since her mother died. I already say yes to this. You give me papers. Good job. Safety. I stay." "No, you don't understand. I'm not offering you a job. I'm offering you a place in this family. Isabella needs you. And he paused, choosing words carefully. "I need someone around who sees me as human instead of monster. Who calls me on my shit while still understanding why I do it. That's rare. Valuable." The offer settled over me, like a weight. Not just employment belonging. A place in a world I'd stumbled into by accident, saving a child I'd barely known. "I think about it," I said, because accepting immediately felt wrong. "Is a big decision." "Fair enough." He shifted Isabella in his arms. "But Lucia? Don't think too long. People who belong in my world either join it completely or leave it permanently. There's no middle ground." The mansion felt different when we returned. Guards everywhere. Security increased to levels that seemed paranoid until I remembered what had almost happened. Marco met us at the entrance, clothes disheveled but expression satisfied. Police bought the self-defense story. Parents are all aligned. Studio owner is cooperating boss. She's terrified, but on board. Media will report attempted robbery that was thwarted. No mention of targeting Isabella specifically. Good. And our guests? Secured in the basement, waiting for your attention. Dominic nodded, handed Isabella to me. She came willingly, wrapping herself around me like I was the only solid thing in a tilting world. "Take her upstairs," he told me. "Maria will help get her settled. I have business to handle." Business. Interrogating the men who'd tried to take his daughter. I didn't want to imagine what that looked like, how violence transformed from defensive to calculated to complete. I carried Isabella to her room. This child was too big to carry, really, but she needed it, needed to feel small and protected after being so brave. Maria met us there, eyes red from crying. "Thank God you're both safe," she breathed. "When we heard what happened is okay now," I assured her. "We are safe. Isabella is safe." I helped Maria get Isabella into comfortable clothes, tucked her into bed despite it being early afternoon. She was exhausted, running on adrenaline that had finally crashed. But before she slept, she pulled out her sketchbook one more time. The drawing she created was simple. 2 figures, her and me holding hands. Above us, a sun breaking through storm clouds. Below us, defeated shadows. And at the bottom, carefully rendered, words in Spanish and English both. "Mi ángel," my angel. Tears blurred my vision. "I'm not an angel, pequeña. Just someone who see you." She touched my face, left her small hand resting on my cheek. Then she signed something, the same gesture she'd made to her father, which I finally understood. "Thank you." I stayed until she slept, holding her hand, watching her chest rise and fall with the deep breathing of true rest. No nightmares tonight. No terror. Just the sleep of a child who finally felt safe. When I emerged into the hallway, Dominic was waiting. He'd changed clothes, the expensive suit replaced with dark jeans and a shirt that had blood on the cuffs. Not his blood. "She asleep?" "Yes. She draw me a picture first. Call me her angel. That's what you are to her. You saved her life today. Twice. Once when you found her drawings, and again when you refused to move." I studied his face, the exhaustion there, the weight he carried. "You finish your business?" "I got what I needed. Tony confessed everything: the deal with the Morettas, the plan to grab Isabella, how long he'd been planning betrayal. His jaw tightened. 15 years. I trusted him for 15 years, and he was willing to sell my daughter for a bigger percentage of profits. What you do to him? What needed to be done? He's gone. The Morettis received his body as a message. They won't move against me again. Brutality delivered with businessman's efficiency. I should have been sick, horrified. Instead, I just felt tired. Tired of violence. Tired of danger. Tired of living in a world where children needed protection from men who saw them as leverage rather than innocence. I want to accept, I said abruptly, your offer, to stay, to be part of this family, but I need something first. His eyebrows rose. Name it. My family. In Guatemala. My mother, my 2 brothers. They are in danger there. Violence, gangs, poverty. I send money, but is not enough. If I stay here, if I belong to your world, I want them brought here. Safe. Legal papers, good home, protection. Done. Just like that? You don't even know how much it cost. I don't care what it costs. You put your body between my daughter and bullets today. You think I won't move mountains to give you what you need? He stepped closer. Give me their names, their location. Within a week, they'll be on American soil with legal documentation and a house that no one can touch. Within a month, they'll have work, schools for your brothers, everything they need to build new lives. My throat tightened. Why? Why you do all this for Maid you barely know? Because you're not a maid. You're the woman who saw my daughter when no one else did, who kept promises when it would have been easier to run, who stood between her and violence, without hesitation. His hand came up, cupped my face with surprising gentleness. You're family now, Lucia, and I take care of family. Always. The touch surprised me, not just that he'd initiated it, but that it felt natural. Right. This dangerous man with blood on his hands, looking at me like I mattered beyond my usefulness. I don't understand this world, I whispered. The violence, the rules, the way everything is, life or death. I'm just a girl from a village who clean houses. No. You're a woman who survived crossing 3 borders alone, who learned to be invisible to stay safe, then chose to be visible to save a child, who stands firm when armed men tell her to move. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. You're stronger than most of my men, Lucia. You just express it differently. I'm scared. Of this world. Of you sometimes. Of what staying means. Good. Fear means you're smart enough to survive here. But Lucia? He leaned closer, voice dropping. You're already in this world. The moment you showed me those drawings, the moment you refused to let Sal take Isabella, you chose. The only question now is whether you choose to stay intentionally or keep pretending you have other options. He was right. I'd crossed a line this morning, standing between Isabella and danger. There was no going back to invisible, no returning to the simple life of cleaning houses and sending money home. I'd become part of something bigger, darker, more complicated than I'd ever imagined. But I'd also found purpose, found a child who needed me, found a family strange and violent and dangerous, as it was that valued me beyond my labor. I stay, I said firmly. I choose this. I choose Isabella, and I choose you helping my family, and I choose learning to live in this world. But Dominic, yes, you teach me. You don't just protect me like I am helpless. You teach me how to survive here for real. Deal? A slow smile spread across his face, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him. Deal. Marco starts training you tomorrow. Self-defense, weapons, how to spot threats, everything. If you're going to stand in front of bullets, you'll know how to avoid getting hit. And Isabella? What happened now? Now she heals. Therapy continues. She keeps drawing. We give her space to recover from trauma and be a child again. His expression softened. And she has you. Someone who understands her language. That's worth more than anything else I could provide. We stood in the hallway, this man and this woman, from completely different worlds, bound together by a child's desperate plea for help. Outside, Chicago continued its life, unaware that in this mansion, a family was being rebuilt from broken pieces. Come, Dominic said, hand finding the small of my back. You haven't eaten since breakfast. Sophia's making dinner. You'll join us as family, not staff. I don't know how to be family here. Neither did I until Isabella was born. We'll figure it out together. Dinner that night was surreal. I sat at the formal dining table, the same one I'd polished countless times as a maid eating food prepared by Sophia, served by other staff members who looked at me with confusion and curiosity. The invisible woman suddenly elevated to eating with the boss. Isabella sat beside me, refusing to leave my side. She picked at her food but managed to eat some, color slowly returning to her pale face. Dominic sat at the head of the table, conducting business on his phone between bites, the mundane mixing with the deadly in ways that felt increasingly normal. Marco joined us, updated Dominic on the day's aftermath. Moretis called. They received your message. They're backing off, claiming it was rogue actors they didn't authorize. Classic denial. Do you believe them? No. But I believe they're scared enough not to try again. Word's already spreading you don't touch Castellano's kid. Not ever. Good. Make sure. That word spreads far. Dominic glanced at me. You're quiet. I am listening. Learning. I gestured at the table, the room, everything. This is not my world. I am trying to understand it. Ask questions. I'd rather you understand than stumble blind. Okay. Question. Why you let Tony betray you for 15 years without seeing? The table went quiet. Marco's eyes widened slightly, apparently. No one questioned the boss this directly. But Dominic just leaned back, considering. Because I trusted him. Because in this world, you can't function without trust, and that makes us vulnerable to betrayal. I missed the signs because I didn't want to believe someone I'd known that long could turn. His jaw tightened. It's a mistake I won't make again. But if you trust no one, you are alone. That is worse, no? Which is why I'm selective about who I let close. Marco, Vincent, Leo, they've proven themselves repeatedly. And now you've proven yourself in ways that matter more than years of service. Isabella signed something to her father. He smiled, translated for me. She says you ask good questions, that you're brave. I'm not brave. I just don't understand enough to know when to be scared. That's what brave is, Marco interjected, acting despite not understanding. Trust me, I've seen combat veterans freeze up. You stood firm with no training, no experience. That's pure courage. I didn't feel courageous. I felt exhausted, overwhelmed, confused about how my life had transformed so completely in less than a week. But Isabella was leaning against me, trusting me, safe because I'd acted. That had to be worth something. After dinner, Isabella wanted me to read to her. We settled into her room, me in a comfortable chair, her curled up in bed with her worn copy of The Secret Garden. I struggled through the English, stumbling over words I couldn't pronounce, but she didn't seem to mind. She just listened, eyes growing heavy, until she drifted off, mid-chapter. I tucked her in, smoothed her dark hair back from her face. This child who'd been so terrified, so desperate to be heard, sleeping peacefully because someone had finally understood her silent screaming. She's never settled that easily. I turned. Dominic stood in the doorway, watching us with unguarded affection. She is exhausted. Today was very scary for her. For everyone. He moved into the room, looked down at his sleeping daughter. Her mother used to read to her every night. After Maria died, Isabella couldn't stand it. Couldn't let anyone else do it because it hurt too much. This is the first time in 2 years she's asked for bedtime stories. She is healing, little by little. Because of you. He looked at me fully, something intense in his gaze. You gave her back her voice, Lucia. Not in words, but in being understood. That's everything. The moment stretched between us, charged with something I couldn't name. Gratitude, yes, but something deeper. Connection, maybe. Recognition of two people who'd found each other by accident and were building something neither had planned. I should go to my room, I said, suddenly aware of the intimacy of standing in his daughter's bedroom late at night. Let you have time with Isabella. Stay. He caught my hand. I want to talk. Really talk, not just strategic planning. We moved to the sitting area between our rooms, neutral territory. He poured wine from a decanter I'd never been allowed to touch before. Handed me a glass. I don't really drink, I admitted. Neither do I, but today feels like a day that deserves acknowledgement. He raised his glass. To my daughter's guardian angel who refuses to admit she's anything special. I touched my glass to his, sipped. The wine was smooth, expensive. Probably cost more than I used to make in a month. It tasted like wealth and security and a future I'd never imagined. Tell me about Guatemala, he said. About your family. The real story, not the sanitized version from Carlos's background check. So I did. Told him about my village, my abuela, who'd taught me to read pictures. About my father leaving when I was 12, my mother working herself to exhaustion trying to feed us. About the gangs that recruited my younger brothers, the violence that made everyday survival uncertain. I leave because I am oldest, I explained. Because if I can send money, maybe my brothers don't join gangs. Maybe my mother can stop working 3 jobs. Maybe we survive. And did they? Survive? So far, yes. But every day is danger. Every day I am afraid the call will come that something bad happen. I met his eyes. That is why I understand you. Why you do terrible things. Because I would do terrible things too. To keep my family safe. We are not so different. We're not. He set down his wine, leaned forward. I was raised in this world. My father ran the organization before me, his father before him. I didn't choose it, it chose me. But, Isabella? I wanted better for her. I wanted her to have normal childhood, grow up safe, choose her own path. Then her mother die, and Isabella lose her voice. Maria was killed by rivals trying to weaken me. They succeeded. I became harder, more violent, more willing to cross lines I'd previously respected. Because if I'm going to be blamed for her death anyway, I might as well be the monster they fear. The pain in his voice was raw, unguarded. This man who commanded through strength and fear, showing me his broken places. You are not a monster. Monsters don't love their daughters like you love Isabella. Monsters don't bring illegal immigrants into their homes and give them families because they keep promises. I reached out, touched his hand tentatively. You are a man in a terrible world, trying to protect what you love. That is human, not monster. His hand turned under mine, caught my fingers. You see me too clearly. I see you like you are, good and bad together, complicated. I smiled slightly. Like everyone. Not everyone stands between 9-year-olds and guns. Not everyone has power to bring families across borders and give them new lives. We each do what we can with what we have. We sat in comfortable silence, hands still connected. Outside, Chicago's lights twinkled against the night sky. Inside, a new family, strange and unconventional and built from trauma and trust, took shape in ways none of us had planned. Your family arrives next week, Dominic said eventually. I've expedited everything. They'll have a house 3 blocks from here, close enough to be protected, far enough to maintain independence. Your brothers will enroll in good schools. Your mother will have access to health care, employment, if she wants it, or comfortable retirement if she doesn't. Tears burned my eyes. I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me. Just stay. Keep being exactly who you are, the woman who sees things others miss, who keeps promises. To children, who questions me when I need questioning. His thumb traced circles on my palm. That's payment enough. Dominic, A knock at the door interrupted. Marco stuck his head in, expression apologetic. Boss, sorry, but we have a situation that needs your attention. The Morettas sent a response. Dominic's entire demeanor shifted, businessman to crime lord in seconds. He stood, squeezed my hand once. I have to handle this. Get some sleep. Tomorrow training starts. Marco will work with you in the morning. Then he was gone, leaving me alone in the sitting area with expensive wine and the understanding that this was my life now. Violence and security, danger and protection, beautiful moments interrupted by business that required blood. I returned to my room, my permanent room now, connected to Isabella's, filled with clothes that fit and furniture that was mine to use. Lay down in a bed that felt like luxury. Thought about my mother and brothers who'd be here soon, safe and legal and whole. Thought about Isabella sleeping peacefully next door, finally feeling secure after weeks of terror. Thought about Dominic, looking at me like I was something precious instead of disposable. And understood that I'd made the right choice. This world was dangerous, complicated, morally gray in ways my village life had never been. But it was also honest. People here didn't pretend to be good while letting children suffer. They acknowledged their darkness while protecting what mattered. I could live with that, could thrive in it even. Because I'd spent my whole life being invisible, voiceless, struggling to survive in spaces that didn't want me. Here, I was seen, heard, valued. Here, I was home. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, Check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.